Good morning, folks. Good afternoon. Good evening, when or wherever you may be. I hope you like my new microphone. I think it's a bit better than the one that I was using. And I'm making this video Monday, the 24th of August. And today it's an important day, at least for the Ukrainians, because this marks the celebration of their independence from the USSR. This is a day where the nations that consider themselves a friend of Ukraine should congratulate them, should reinforce the support on their fight for their existence as a state against the savagery of Russia. And it's a day that I think should have been taken as an opportunity by some countries to at least try to repair some of the evil that they have been doing to Ukraine. But we know how these things are. So first we are going to watch a video. Okay, let me just coordinate this here. This. We are going to watch a video, okay, and then we are going to talk a bit about it. All right, give me a minute. All right, I'm back. Let's watch a bit of this video by Euronews. The link will be in the description, and then we can talk about it. Okay, let's watch it.
For defense procurement as part of the bloc's 90 billion euros loan program, the EU executive announced on Monday. The approval comes as Ukraine marks 35 years of independence amid a rise in civilian deaths from Russian attacks due to Kyiv's shortage of air defense systems. According to a statement by the European Commission, the defense funding aims to supply Kyiv with air and missile defense systems, missiles, ammunition, and radars. The funding also comes as EU leaders participated in key meetings in Kyiv on Monday, including the Coalition of the Willing meeting, aimed at drumming up additional air support and energy supplies for Ukraine as it edges closer to winter. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and First Lady Olena Zelenska honored the memory of fallen soldiers on Monday as the country marked their Independence Day. Zelensky and his wife laid flowers at the Wall of Remembrance, a memorial to Ukraine's fallen defenders, alongside other European leaders as part of the official celebration. No delegates from the Trump administration were present at the ceremony marking the Independence Day as Russia pushes on with its more than 4-year-old invasion of the country.
All right, that is quite enough. This is a part of news, the latest news bulletin. Okay, the evening news bulletin. Now, let me just have a sip of water, please. Because fortunately, the weather, sorry, is fairer right now. It's not as hot, but it's still hot. Okay, but if it continues this way for the rest of summer, I will be a happy man. Now, let's talk a bit about this. Basically, all the European allies were there, not just from the EU, but also from the UK and the United States, of course, did not send anyone. Look, this is just what they did to South Korea. This is what they have been doing to all of its allies. They are simply disappearing. And if you disappear, and if you are not noticed, then you will stop being important. The President of the United States promised the defensive missiles, the Tomahawks, that he could not send because he has run out of ammunition in the Straits of Hormuz. Perhaps he will just start to do, or maybe he's already doing it, what Putin is doing in Ukraine. Since the drones and all that he sends are not able to pierce through the defenses of the Ukrainians, well, he's using ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles, to pierce through the defenses of the Ukrainians, and he is targeting civilian targets. Maybe that's what the United States pretends to or wants to do in Iran. I don't know. Perhaps target a couple of more schools, girls' schools, for example. I don't know. Mosques, for example, where people are praying. Well, whatever. It's very sad, you know. It is very sad to see uh, a decline that would have been more or less controlled. Because the declines are normal. The rise and fall, it's normal, okay? It's normal, it's a part of life. Countries like people, they are born, they are strong, they are weak, they are old, and they die. Some of them, like in Europe, they transform themselves into something else again, maintaining their culture. I really don't know if the United States has the capability to do that. And I'm not talking about its size or whatever. I'm talking about the nature of their culture itself. It's a very superficial culture that does not. And I promised one of my subscribers, and I thank him because he called me out on it, and with right, that I was leaning a bit too much on the Americans, and he is right. But this right now that I'm going to say, this is purely a sociological analysis. Uh, I'm not saying that certain areas, certain groups, they don't have their own culture. Like someone has also already told me, Puerto Rico, for example, that is a territory of the United States, it has its own culture. If you go to certain parts of the United States, they will have a specific culture. Even if you don't like it, in some parts of the South, both black and white communities, they have their own culture. And you have all the others that it's that copy paste print so-called American culture that used to be the white picket fence, okay, and two cars and all of that. That now it's really a bit lost, you know, because people, I don't think people, I think the problem is that people are not able to talk with each other. Uh, I think this will poison the future of the country. And I'm not saying that we don't have similar problems, but it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing because of the way that we function here. It's as simple as this. If the culture becomes too disintegrated, so to speak, we reintegrate everything into a monoblock. Okay, this is what all European countries do. This is why we are still here. We integrate whatever has to be integrated and we shut it down. And we maintain that line of culture and of existence, let's call it like this. But it's interesting to see, and I showed you this video because I thought it was important for us to see it. How in less than 2 years it has come to this. The man that promised to end the war with a phone call as soon as he got into office. Not, pardon me, not sending anyone, not even making a call, not even acknowledging it, nothing. To me, that tells me that that person, the President of the United States, this is the person to whom we are referring to, that person is ashamed. Or perhaps he feels no shame and he just knows that he's not going to go there and be humiliated, or people don't like him, or one thing that I think it's much more worrying for everyone in the United States, maybe they didn't even wanted him to be there. And maybe he talked about sending someone like Witkoff or Kushner, and they told him, no, you better not send those people. Those people go to Moscow and they spend 6 hours speaking with Mr. Putin. And we also cannot forget a couple of months ago when Ukrainian intel on their military positions was leaked by someone, the American establishment, let's call it like this. I don't believe the militaries would do it. This has come from up their rank, because let me tell you, I honestly believe that no American NATO soldier or commander or whatever would leak information in that way. Because tell what you tell about them, the military still have a sense of honor. But they also have the sense of the chain of command, and he is the supreme military leader. So he basically can do whatever the fuck he wants. Yeah, you were missing a bit of a swear. And if he's briefed on everything, even if perhaps involuntarily, he leaks everything that is being done by his allies, so to speak, to the little man in the crown. If he is in the crown, perhaps he's in a bunker somewhere. Let me just pick up this. Okay. I just arrange the seating to be in a more comfortable position. I'm still adapting a bit to my position here. Now, future. The future is that, and I saw something that I did not see here in Portuguese news, that a lot of European countries are already stepping up with alternatives to the Patriots. They are already sending them to Ukraine because we know winter is coming and they are going to need it. Because when winter comes, I think we might have another Russian offensive, another bloodbath that will be preceded by a lot of attack on civilian infrastructures. Because in wintertime in Russia, they are also going to suffer a lot. And the Ukrainians, they are not going to lay off the attacks on the energy infrastructures, and I think they shouldn't. And I know people will say, well, don't you feel sorry for the Russian people? Well, the Russian people have the option to do what they did in 1917. Go to the palace, arrest the Tsar, and end the war. That is all I can really say about it, okay? Uh, how can anyone ask me to? Number one, I don't feel any pleasure in knowing that people are suffering. You have to understand this. I keep repeating it because I think it's necessary. It's necessary for us to repeat these things and to feel them. Okay, when I look at a queue of Russians waiting to perhaps be able to fuel up their cars, some of them that sleep for more than one day or days over on a queue to be able to fill up their car. Then they arrive at the pump, and sometimes there is no gas in the pump, or they can only fill up to a certain measure. When I see that, you want to know what I feel? My feelings that I have is pity. And I told you that I sometimes feel hatred towards them. And I'm very honest about it, and I talk about it because I think we need to talk about it, okay? And you that are listening to me, you need to know how I feel about it, okay? So that when you hear me talk, you will understand why am I talking in a certain way. But I then remember of the Ukrainian people I have talked with here, online, also, with the reports I've been listening to the television. Let's call it like this. I only watch news online, but you understand me. Of that second-hand reports when you are talking with a friend and he tells you about this interaction that he had with an Ukrainian refugee, the stories that I have had directly that I talked about here in streams. If you go back a couple of streams, you will see it. And then I think, no, I shouldn't feel this way. I'm human, okay? I will feel pity, but I should refuse myself to hate. And in the United States right now, and I'm talking about the government, I'm talking about the ones that are in power, there is so much pettiness, so much selfishness. Everyone knows that this is all excuses to enrich Mr. Trump. Mr. Trump. You want to know why? What was one of the big questions because the failure of the negotiations with Canada? It's because he did that mockery of sending one of the companies of him or his sons or his son-in-law to Greenland, and were going to try to start drilling and doing this and doing that without the permission of the Greenlandic government. And they told them, no, fuck off. You are not going to do that. If you do that, we are going to impound your materials. And this is how it stands. They have it in the harbor, but they are not going to get a license. But at the same time, the government of Greenland gave permission to a Canadian company to to investigate to see if there is all of that type of mine and mineral resources and all of that. And was one of the reasons why then Mr. Trump had a hissy fit, and he sent Mr. Witkoff and Kushner to put in additional demands to the agreement. One of the demands was I remember a couple of them. One was very curious, and that was that Canada is not going to make any sort of political or trade agreement with the EU or with China without the consent, I repeat this word, consent, it was written there, consent of the United States. Wonderful, isn't it? The other one was that Canada is not going to block the public procurement of any American companies or whatever, all the bulls and all of that crap. The other one was that Canada is not going to demand American companies to label their products both in French and in English. A significant part of the population in Canada speaks French. Quebec. And they speak French. It's French, but it has their own accent. It's called Quebecois, okay? But it's French. So those people, they are very fierce of their culture. And the Canadian government, it's a federation, and of course, French is recognized as one of the official languages. And if you have people that predominantly speak French, and he was not just talking about products, okay, he was talking about the for the government not to incentivize the use of French in TV series and movies and all of that. And to me, this one is the most petty of them all. So, the American government was dictating to the sovereign nation of Canada what they should do. And then he goes to the point of saying something like this. When then he had this tantrum and announced the sanctions, the tariffs, just sanctions, the tariffs to Canada, saying something in the likes of Canada is no longer a state in this. Canada is no longer a state of the United States. Can you feel the delusion of this man to say such a thing? Canada is not a part of the United States. Canada is a sovereign nation. Canada has its own culture that might have some similarities with other North American cultures, like the Americans. But it's not the same. So much so that, at least here in Europe, we find the Canadians people that pretty much act like a European in many aspects. I think I even said this in a comment that if Canada was geographically near Europe, to be a part of Europe, understand, it would be just another European country. And the United States, no. It has been drifting away for decades. If it was ever anything similar to us, allergies, not boogers. Uh, and right now, I think the culture is completely different. I would say that the aspects of Hispanic culture of the United States, it's still similar to us. Because, even Mexico with all its issues, it's still a European culture. Even South America with all of its differences, okay, with all of its particularities, I'm not generalizing, I'm just talking about about things that are similar. Even South America has a lot of similarities to Europe. A lot of differences, of course, but a lot of similarities too. And the United States has become this creature that is petty. And again, my friends, okay, decent Americans, I'm not talking with you. I'm talking about the way your state is acting, your government is acting. And a significant part of your population that voted for Donald J. Trump is acting, okay? But it has become selfish, petty, voluntarily ignorant. They praise ignorance. The more ignorant, the more outlandish you are, the better. And quite a place that is sterile in new ideas. To me, that is what should bore you the most. Because if you cannot have new ideas and evolve, then your country is buried, like one would say. Now, folks, I decided just to make this little recording to say congratulations to Ukraine and just to talk a bit about these these monkeys that were running away in my attic. And I don't know. Things are getting really weird, and I'm seeing. Not right now. I think we are going to start to see the consequences of all that has been happening. Now, like that beef that the president is bringing in, because it will mean cheaper beef for the ones that are going to vote in the primaries. And while he's doing that, he's definitely sinking the business of the cattle ranchers inside of the United States. And that beef will probably be the same beef that Brazil, yes, Brazil, was not able to sell to Europe because that was one of the questions that was in the Mercosur agreement, but that was dealt with, okay? Like we say, no hard feelings. Okay? It was settled. Because Brazil, of course, can sell beef to Europe, but it has to sell beef under our conditions. But they were trying to sell that beef to Europe, and since it did not meet our requirements of health and sanitary reasons, we didn't accept that beef. And Argentina cannot supply you with the amounts of beef that Mr. Trump wants. So you are going to eat that beef. The beef that is coming, you are going to eat the beef that Europe did not want. Because your food standards are atrocious. Before, there was some kind of surveillance, okay? During Mr. Biden's period, okay, and other presidents before him, including the person that is in charge right now. You had institutions that monitored the quality of your food. They might have not done a very good job, but at least they would prevent the epidemic of issues that you have been having. Okay, screwworms, diarrhea, parasites, all that shit. Okay, and you might also get a lot of horse meat in that beef, and there's nothing wrong with it. Okay, I've had horse meat before. It's not very popular here in Portugal, but you can find it if you want it. I just don't eat it because I don't think there's a need for it. But it's the same as beef, as cow, except it's more lean. And I'm sure that a lot of you in the United States have already ate horse meat and you thought it was beef. Because the food regulations in your country are atrocious. That is something you need to deal with, okay, for your health. But you have a president that says you don't need as much vaccination as it being imposed, and is trying to make a witch hunt on doctors and on scientists. So, well, this has gone long, too long. Okay, so I'm going to end this video. I was going to make a stream, but then I would be talking until too late. Start talking, start asking, start answering questions by people, and then I would be here for too long ranting. So, folks, have a great day. Okay, if you are in the United States, please don't think that we are not sad for you. We are very angry and very annoyed, but we are also very sad. It's sad. I think, like I said in another stream, when we Europeans start to ignore you, that is the moment you should worry. When we are talking about you, when you are relevant, it's good news for you. But the moment we start to ignore you or not caring or not wanting to talk with you or talk about you, I would worry. And politically, at least, that is already happening in certain events. I watched that. So, folks, thank you all for coming. Have a great day or great evening or great night or great afternoon, okay, when or wherever you may be. And take care of yourselves.